This is another session of our training, and in today's training we are going to be doing two topics: CSS Advance Selector and also colors. We're going to be talking about colors, and to bring all the whole thing together, we're going to do a project, a mini project, very fast one, to design a football scoreboard. Yeah, that's what we'll be doing. So to make use of everything we are going to be learning in the CSS Advanced Selector and in the using colors as well. By now, I'm sure we understand CSS selectors because we have been using CSS selectors for the past two classes that we've had now, and the selectors that we've been known to use have been primarily ID, class, and name. So this time around, we're extending it to 5 more. And the idea of having advanced is because there are times whereby you want to style something, but those 3 options might not be easy for you to use. So you want to use something more advanced, and that's why we have this. And don't worry, we're going to use in our example today. We're going to use that in our example today, and you're going to see how to implement it. So first of all, one of the major one is the attribute present selector. And I'm just going to explain all of this. When we get to the code, you will see which, when I'm writing the code, I explain which one is which I'm talking about. So we have attribute present selector, attribute equal selector, attribute contain selector, pseudo classes, and end of type selector. So when I'm using each of these, you're going to see them. So don't let the name scare you. Once we get into the code, you will see how I use them. So the next thing we have is the color. Also, I want to finish all my slides so that when we get to the code, I'll give you more detail of what all this is all about. Obviously, you've seen us use color to style one or two things that we've been doing. And you've seen that we've been using red, blue, we've been using name, to determine what kind of color we have. So in HTML, you can denote color in 4 ways. You can use name to denote a color, but you agree with me that there are some color you might not be able to name because we have like as much as more than 60 million colors. So are you telling me that all the 60 million colors they have a name, but the system might not be able to know? You can't even remember all those 60 million colors to start with. So it's not that they don't have a name, but you don't have the memory to remember the exact color. So you need a way to have those colors out, and that's where we have hexadecimal colors, meaning you can use hexadecimal to bring out those colors. We'll get to see the examples. We also have RGB, and these are what printers use a lot. That's red, green, and blue. When you mix those colors together, you have any kind of color. So we also have HSL, and that's hue, saturation, and light. Hue, saturation, and light. When you mix all those colors as well, you have those colors. So we'll just be focusing on color names and RGB, to save time. So color names is simply using the name of the color. We've used this example for like the longest time. When we want to denote a color, we just say blue, we just say red, we just give it a name that everybody knows, that easily people can relate to it. And those are the normal color. You have more colors, but these are the colors that stick, and then we use them. So this is you using a color by name. And another thing you need to notice is that colors are being used in, I think, 3 major places. Number 1, the color of the text. Number 2, the color of the background element. Number 4, the border. So these are the 3 major places you'll be using colors: color of the text, color of the background of the element, and color of the border of the element. So this is color by name. We've used this one extensively, throughout our examples. The next one, which is what we'll be using, is RGB or RGBA. As the case may be. The A part is to decide the transparency level. So I have a whole write-up here. I don't want to go and read, so you can read up the write-up to understand what's going on here. But literally, RGB stands for red, green, blue. And what happens is that each of those color band, which is red, green, blue, has a number, maximum being 256 for each of those colors. So here it says that if you tune all those colors, the red, the green, the blue, you increase it to the highest, it gives you white. Meaning if you pour a thick red, a thick green, and a thick blue together, they give you white. Imagine if you have like a thick red and you have 0 green and 0 blue. What do you have? You have a red. So that's what is happening. So this is how you can get as much as 16 million colors combination when you have this kind of setup. And this is what we will be using. By the way, you don't need to cram anything here. The editor makes it easy for you to pick any color you want. But this is just theory, so that you know how these things came to be. So that when you are seeing those code, you don't like, what is RGB again? This is what RGB is. Okay, let's move on. We're gonna do a new file, and that's CSS 103.html. And what we are trying to do is to create football scoreboard. Yes, that's what we want to do. So you know how we do it. We just go to Google and search for a template to use, and then that's what we use to start our program. But before we do anything, I just duplicate one of these. I'll just duplicate one of the project that we have and clean it up to just have what we need. So quickly I clean this up, and I remove all the information that was there before, which we won't need, and I clean everything up to be here. Okay, so we are done with what we want to present. Then we can go and get the template. So let's preview this. So let's go to Google. Okay, so I want it to be in tabular form. So this is what we want to do, something like this. This is what we are doing. I hope it's clear. This is what we are doing. And the idea of me using this method or doing this is because it allows us to show you some features that I have. So we don't have to copy the exact text, but I want to bring this feature to life. So first thing, I might not come back to this again. I just want to show you that that's what we are trying to do, because it's not a good image to use. First thing is that we need a background. Notice there's a background, and then we have a table that is transparent. Let me make it big enough so that we can see that. So we have a background of the field, and then we have a table. That table is showing you like a scoreboard, how each of the team have performed. So we might not have the exact column, but you can see the design going on there. Notice the border on the border radius on the edge. So all this effect, we're going to use it, and we're going to use what the new advanced styling, Advance Selector, to target each of these edges. And that's the idea what we want to do. So let's go ahead and start searching all the required materials that we need. The only thing we need is just the background, field background. So I go and do football. I just search for football field, and I'm looking for a tall one. The reason why I'm looking for a portrait is because of our preview. So our preview is tall, so I need a portrait. This is an American football. Okay, this is good. So let's use this one. This is good. I like this because it's tall. So our preview is also tall. So that's why I want something like this. So let's save image. And most of the time our image is always heavy. So this time around I will reduce it to be something that we can easily manage. Then I will save it as BG, even though we have a lot of BG, but let me just use BG. Whatever BG there is there. So this is JPEG. Let me see the size to see if something will come manage. Okay, it's small, 235. So I hope it won't flicker like all the ones we've been having. So we have that saved. I don't think we need any other images again. So let's go ahead and jump into the code. Our background can be tied to our body. So we are styling what we're styling by name. This is styling by name, and we can do our background image. The background image is this first one. Okay, so we have our image. Of course, you know, it's not, we need to put in a way that it will align properly. So you then need to use background position, background size, or repeat. There are so many kind of properties you can use. So let's use this opportunity to talk about background, and this is now official. So I'm taking you through the properties of CSS properties of background. So the first thing we have is the background image, and what that does is the ability for you to bring in image into your element we are talking about. In this case, body element. So we're bringing the image in. The next thing we have is, we have quite a lot of things, but I'm going to be explaining the one I'm using so you know the properties. The next one I want to pick is the size, and what the size does is to either reduce the image to a sizable chunk that you want to use. So you can say, you know, is 100 pixels, and look at what that does. It just duplicates the image for us 100 by 100. That's what that does, you know. So that's the purpose of size. Apart from the fact that you can also specify the size, you have other options apart from just putting percentage or number to it. You can say it should cover the whole of the area that it can accommodate, and that's what we're going to use. I will say it should cover the whole place, and that's what we have here. So anyhow you move it, it should try as much as possible to cover the whole place. But notice at some point it's going to repeat, you know, so we can go ahead and say it should not repeat and what have you. And that's what this one is all about, background repeats. So if you reduce your image to a sizable chunk, what now happens to the rest of the space? The image is going to repeat itself. So you can say background repeat and say what? No repeat. So no repeat means it's not going to repeat the image. So if you try and reduce it, notice that there's no image at the bottom again. But if you do not specify this, by default it's going to repeat, and that's the purpose of no repeat. That's what it does. Moving on to the next thing we have. So let's use our high quality then. Okay, let's move on. Start on 23. So that becomes our heading. And then the next thing you want to do is that you want to, so I mentioned this to you the other time. It's either you style first while you're doing it, or you write all your code, then you style later. So right now, let's just write everything we need to do, then we style later. Then we have so we have tr, that's table row. Then you have td. So I want to start my h1. I'll just go in there and do h1 because our h1 carries our header. First of all, I need it to be in the middle. I will do text align, center, then I can do color. So what I mentioned before, I said you can see color by name. So this is color by name. So, and these are all the names available on Visual Studio Code. I'm sure you've not heard about some color name before, right? So there are more. So you won't be able to picking by name will not really make sense. What really makes sense is picking by the availability of the colors that is here. So this gives you like wide array to pick, you know, dynamic colors. And look at what I said when I was explaining that RGB to you guys. R means red, G green, B and blue. And then we have the alpha thing. The alpha thing, you know, it allows you for transparency. How transparent should that color be? So if you pick this color, for example, and you want it to have like transparent level, you will notice another shade here on the right, and this is just for you to be able to pick other colors in between. Why this other one allows you to specify how transparent that color should be. notice the percentage, or rather the ratio, increase from 1 and go down to 0, like that. So that's how the percentage, the intensity is determined. So that's why I said you don't really need to cram all those colors that I was telling you about. You don't need to cram it for now, but the idea is you need to know how it came to be. How did RGB come to be? It's not just some magic. It has a process, and it has why it came. So let's go ahead and decide on the color. I'm gonna put something of this here, and we can then move on from there. So this color will then be what we'll use for the border and what have you. So let me use this. So you can see the advantage of this. It allows you to play with the color and come up with what you need exactly that will fit your needs. The next thing we want to do is we want to provide this background to this table. So before I move on, I need to tell you what I want to achieve with this table so that you have a foreknowledge of what's going on in the entirety. So before I move on, let me increase the font so that we can be seeing it can be making sense. So let me say font size. Let's settle for this for now. So what I want to achieve with this is such that this table will be transparent, right? And it will sit in the middle of this place, and it will be long like this, because we're going to increase this one. So I want it to sit in between here, and when you take your mouse over it, it should be changing color. Like, those are the effects I want us to do to it. All these edges, it will have rounded edges, just like what we have here. It will have rounded edges on the right and on the bottom. So, and then you can see the line it has like this. It will also have that nice line. That's what we want to do. So we want to convert this boring looking table to something fancy like that. And I'll need your attention in going through all this gradually. So let's start. So there are no particular order, but I'm just going to choose my own order in which I do it. So there's no particular order in which you can do it. You can just start off any which order you want to do. So first of all, I need to put it in the middle. I need to align this to the middle. So that's as solved that. I've aligned this to the middle. So what I need to do also is to create some spacing in between this, or we can just start setting the background so that we can even see what we're working with. So let's see how to do it without using this part and just using CSS alone. So first of all, you need to specify how big it is, your table is. Of course, we're not going to make it 100%. I'm just showing you we're not going to make it 100% because we need to create that illusion of the fact that there's a space left and right. So you can do 80%. So now that you've made it 80%, you need to be able to push the table from this edge outside and give this place a space, so that way your table will fall in between. So then you have to do your margin left. So if you do 10%, so you can see what happened. Margin left was pushed by 10%. So then you can do your margin right 10%. So that has created the illusion of centered, that you centered it. So this is how to center it. So I just use an easy way out to do align center. So if you want to use your CSS, this is a way to do it, because we're still going to specify the width anyway. So we would have gone ahead to use this method. So this is the right way to do it. Specifying the width, because our table, and the good thing about using this is because it's relative. You remember the positioning, the measurement, CSS measurement. You use this is relative, meaning anyhow we adjust it, it follows. So you can also reduce it and say, no, we want to do 70. And once you do 70, your margin needs to correct with it, because it now be 15 to make room for the space, so that it will look like, because the whole thing is 100%. So if this place is 70, we have 15 to use. So that's how I have this margin like this. Okay, let's move on. So I mentioned that we can't do table to that each of these is called table data. So I'll be making my decision based on what I'm saying, because if you are doing it on your own, you can start from anywhere. You can decide how you want to do it from any of the angles, and that's fine. So what I want to do right now is I want to put the underline first on each of the table. So, and each of this is table row, that's TR. Each of this is TR. Very important, they are all TRs. So how do I style TRs? I can just come here and just style a TR and say what should happen to a TR. You want all TR to have border on the bottom. Remember what I want to do? I want to do border on the bottom, and so I can just do border. I think I've explained how this border works to you guys. So the way border works is this. It has ability for you to do, when you say border and you then style your border, what you are doing is you are putting border around the elements, up, right, bottom, left, and you have three options. You can put the color, you can put the texture or how solid it should be, texture, and then you can decide the width. So if I say I want red, and here I say I want it to be solid, and here I want it to be 3px. That's what I said I want. So this is table row. Table row cannot actually house a border. You can house a border in table data. So when you now specify that it's a table data you're talking about, all your table data then have border. So if you look at it individually, you have table data, is circled. Each of the table data is circled, but you don't want all the table data to be circled. You want the bottom alone to be a dash. You want a dash, line on the bottom. So what you will do, you will just say this, you're focusing on bottom alone, and then you have this effect. One, I want to do like a 1 or a 2. Okay, let's do a 1. And the color we are going for, we're not going for red, we're going for something like this. Or let's focus on that green. Let's use the green theme. Okay, so we're picking this, and this same color we've just picked is going to be what we're going to use to circle all the edges. So this is what we're going for, this color. Another thing again I want us to do is to also color the default behavior of the content. And let me show you so that we'll see where we are coming from. So you can see that by default, this is color blue. Like each of them have like some gradient of color inside. So let's have that default color as well. And then you can see that the color is not so thick, right? It's kind of light. And how do they do that? They do that by specifying background color. So remember that each of these is TDs. So you can actually color each of the TD. That's what you are doing now by doing this. So you say background color, and you can then specify the color you want. But this time around, we are using, you can see the color we chose, but you want it to be transparent. Remember, you want it to be transparent, and I've showed you how to specify transparency by doing this. You see the effect that it has for transparency. So you can actually convert any color to have transparency, and you can copy a color from a previous style that you have. So I'm picking this one that I have. I want to make it transparent. I'll just take my mouse over here and reduce or increase the transparency as the case may be. So you can have that. Then I think a color white should be okay for our text. And I can use the table, because now I'm inside the table. I'm saying all the things inside table should have color white. That's what I'm just saying here. That's why I said that my styling is going to be depending on what I'm saying. So you can't just style at once. As I'm styling it, things are going to be changing. I'm going to be saying something else, and then I'm going to be styling it. That's the purpose of the styling we are doing. So we're still focusing on color and what have you. And again, when you need to use color by name, you can just use it. You don't need to go all out, and because white is white, black is black. You'll be using those colors when you need to use them. Gray is gray. There's some colors that you will just use directly. You don't need to specify code because you know what you want to style. So and it's fine to do that. Another thing again I want to do is the space in between all the table data. You can see that the space is pretty packed together. So I want to play along with the space. We need to be able to specify that this is header and style the header separately. And how do we do that? Even though I know there's TD header, but I just want to use this method. But maybe we should just do that. So the idea of a table header is to specify that this is the head of the table. And even though it follows the same command, it has different tag, a little bit different tag. So one of the things that it first denotes is the fact that you have to do th head. That's to say, this is the header, this is the head of the table. Then inside it, you then need to say, we already have this. This is already fine. But the one that changed, instead of td, we have th. So you can then see what happens to the table header. Automatically it creates its own different styling. And this is because table header behave separately. Yeah, there's one thing again you will notice is that all elements have their default way that they show. So because I've specified table header, it's showing differently, because that's how header shows. They are thicker and their fonts are different from the rest. And that's fine. We're going to style them separately, by the way. Okay, so what we've done, and then you can see that it didn't really have its own body here because this is all TD. Then now we can then go and style TH separately. So let's style TH separately. And what we're going to put in TH is something different. What we want to do here is to be able to okay, we'll style it. Now increase the spacing in between each of these texts, because the way these texts are, they are too packed together. We need to reduce the font and increase the spacing. To reduce the font, we already have something that generally reduce the font from here. Yeah, I think this is okay. Then to have the padding increase, we can have it from here. You know, padding is the space between the elements and the content, and it's in between the content. This is box model now. The content, after the content, the next thing is the padding. So after this one, what is going to the left is the padding. What's on the top is the padding. What's on the right is the padding. What's on the bottom is the padding. Before the border that you're seeing here. So we're about to increase the padding. So if I dare add a padding to this, you're going to see what's going to happen. Let's say 5. So do you notice that it changes, drastically? So let's just say 15 so that you see the obvious change. So that's what happens with the padding. You can see that it's looking neater because things are evenly spaced out. So it's looking neater. Notice that nothing happens to the TH because you didn't do anything in the TH. You styled only the table data. So it means we can go and style this separately. And what this does is that you can actually have different styling for table header and also for table data, which is fine. And that's where we are going with all this. So let's go ahead and style our table header. So even though we're having the same styling, it's still cool. We can even then increase it and say, because if you notice here, the table header had a more larger styling than the base here. So that's to show you that you can have different kind of effects there. So I'm just okay, so let's start having the edge, the curved edge that we have there on the top right. top left and top right. How did they achieve that? I want to start introducing ends of type. This ends of type is ability for you to target a particular element in terms of the location or the number that they are. Now let me give you a scenario. If you want to target the first item and the last item, there's a way you can do that. You have to put a class ID. But let's assume that this was not designed by you. You are just working with a dynamic template, and that's the reason why you come ahead with Advance. The HTML has already been designed by someone else and you can't even touch it, but you want to style it because it's possible that the design was done with somebody else. Maybe somebody gave this design to you and you can't touch the design, meaning you can't come and add your own styling here. This is fixed. We can't add anything here again. We can't write any code here again. They just told you that go and style it, right? That's why you need the Advance selector. So you should write your styling in such a way that you will target all these things without you adding class to it. And that's where what we want to do now. Use the ends element to find the number, like the first guy. That's what we want to do. We want to target the first thing on the row. So to target this first guy, how do we target it? We target it this way. So we say table row. We say the first table row. And to target an end element, you introduce something new, which is this sign. You introduce this sign and you do first child. So I've introduced two things now. You have this new thing is what I've introduced. First child. What first child talked about is that the element you are talking about, which is TR, you are saying the first child of it is what you are targeting. By the way, you can also target the last child, which is on the bottom here. So we'll be targeting both. We want the first child and the last child. The good thing about this is that you don't have you only have one table header, right? So you don't need to do TR. So you can say the first table header is what you are looking for. So I'll just say table header and the first of it, what should happen? Let's put an obvious styling. Let's say color red, just to show you what is happening. So do you see how CSS can make things happen? We're just saying target the first child and make it red. You can see that we didn't touch the HTML. Notice that we didn't add any style to this. No style was added to this, and we're able to do this fancy thing. So let's move ahead. Let's save time and go ahead and complete what we want to do. So what we intend to do is to curve this top left edge, right? So we do border, put some figure there. So do you see the effect that we have? When we have 20, you can see that curved effect that we have there. So that's what we want to achieve. This has solved this problem. So let's go and solve the last one on the extreme right. So for the extreme right, I duplicate it. Instead of me saying first, I do what? I do last. So you've learned two things now. You've learned first and what? And last. So this one is not going to be added it's going to be added on the right top. So I need top right. And I maintain my what's it called now? My 20. So I'm missing out the border. I've not put, notice that there's no border. There's border on the bottom. But on this part here, I can put border on the left and border on the top. That's what I want to do. I need to put border on the left and border on the top. This one as well, I need to put border on the right and border on the top. So let's go ahead quickly. We have our border on the top. So again, you can maintain the same color which we have here. Border this color here. Let's just maintain the same color. Border on the top is set. Do you see that? And border on the left, you also need to set border on the left. And that part is fixed. Then you need to do the same thing to border on this other part. You need to fix this other part. You see how all of this will come together. So we need to change this to border top, border right. Okay, so notice that this other part is not completed. How do you close up this gap? Simple. These guys are called what? They are called TH. This TH, 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 TH. Just say all TH should have what? Border on the top closed. Then you just come here and say, you can even be here and say all TH should have their border top closed. And that's all. In fact, you doing this because this first one is also TH, this last one is also TH. So you don't need to repeat what you've done here. You don't need to repeat what you've done here. This automatically fixed this one. So this has fixed. Mind you, we have spacing here. We're going to close this spacing. To close this spacing, we can have that in this attribute. But there's a CSS that has that. I can't remember it right now. But let's just close it here. So it's cell spacing. Cell spacing and cell padding. I can't remember the CSS to close it. But for now, let's just close it this way. Okay, so we have that done. We need to also have it left done, all the left hand side. We need to have it done. So how can we target all the left? So still follow me and let's see how to target the left. Notice that all these left are what? TR, but they are TR. For each of the TR, we want to target that the first TD in each of the TR. That's what we want to target, so that we can close all the left. I'll repeat that again. These are all TRs, but we are targeting the first item of all TRs so that we can close the left hand side. Because if we just say we want to close all TDs, if you say you want to close all the TDs to the left, so let's copy this one here. For the left, this is what you have. If you say you are closing all the left TDs, do you see what you have? But we don't want to close all these guys. We just want to close all the left hand side of the first TD in a TR. So let me take you to the HTML page so that you see what I'm talking about. This is the TR. We want to target this one. We want to target all the one I highlighted. That's what we want to target. And that makes it TR space TD first item. So let me show you the code. So it makes it what? It makes it all TR that has TD, but the TD has to be the first item. That's called first child. So immediately you have this done this way. Then I can do the opposite and say all TR that the TD. Okay, so let me repeat that again. So I come here and I say I have all the TRs. My intention, you already know what I want to. Let me do it on the second part. So the intention is that we want to close this gap like this. And how do you target? Which one is responsible for that? If you notice, is the last TD inside the TR. I'll repeat that again. Is the last TD inside a TR that is responsible for that. So how do you target the last TD inside a TR? So we want to target the last TD inside a TR. To do that, because we are inside the TR, we start with TR first. And then inside the TR, we have what? TD. And what are you targeting the TD? Is what? The last child. The last child. And just to show you, let me color it red. So you see what happened. So if you color red, do you see what happened? It's all red. So anything I style this guy, it will be applicable to this. You cannot style it anything you want. What this one does is that you'll be able, that's why it's called Advance Selector. Like you can select anything using this method. You can pick anything. Once you understand the HTML page, you can then look at it and use the selector to target the elements that you want. So let's go ahead and reverse. So instead of left, you are closing the right portion of it. It's the right you want to close. So I'll just change this one to right. So that closed that bit. Finally, we need to close the bottom. We need to close this bottom to form this angle. So again, we are still using the same thing. How do we target the bottom part? To target the bottom part, it has to be, yes, this one is a little bit tricky, but we have to say it. So to target the bottom part, how do you go about it? If you do TD last, let me show you what TD last will do, so that you need to also show yourself so that you see what's happening. Color red. So this is TD last. But you know there's also TR. These are all TR. So it means you can do TR last, TD first. You can do TR first, TD last. So what happens if I do TR last instead of just only single TR? Let me try it. TR, and say what? First TR. You can actually say first child of TR. You see what happened? First child of TR, last child of TD. Look at where it goes to. Then that means I can do last child of TR, and you can see last child of TD. So that's what happened. Then I can close this part like this. So to do that, I just pick one of my radius guy here and change the direction. So here now, I will now be saying, instead of top, I'll be doing bottom. Instead of, yeah, that's it. Then I remove my red color and I do the same thing to this other left side. I just duplicate this guy, and now I'm focusing on the first. Now I'm still working on last, but this time around first child, so that it will pick this one. Now that that's picked this one, I need to make sure that the curving is done on the left hand side and not on the right hand side. Then I do left, this. Now I've been able to do these bits. The other thing, I think we're getting close to, we're not almost done. We're almost done. I need to increase the height of this thing. Okay, it's just by populating, adding more. Let me just add more records. So let me show you another thing. Like, what if I want to target all this column here, only this thing A? How do you do that? How do you target a particular column? How do you target, all this place? Normally if you are going to do it, you're going to attach CSS to it, which is painstakingly difficult. So how do you target a particular, because it's possible that you want to highlight a column, like highlight all these D, for example. How do you do that? Simple. You will just specify the nth child. The nth child, let me apply it to the rows, even though I'm going to clean it off. So this is the row, right? You can actually say all rows. Let me try this. All rows has color red. That's what this one says, which this one, you understand this one. All rows have color red. But now, I don't want all rows to have color red. I only want row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th row to have color red. How do I specify that? Then you come in with this and you say nth child, and it has a parameter. You say, okay, which of the child? I can say 5, the 5th child. I can say no, the 1st child. I can say no, the 3rd child. I can say, oh, I want only even child or odd child. So this is advanced. As you grow into it, you will get to understand this. So this is the power of the nth child. What this one does is allow you to pick specifically, or using a formula to pick what you want to target. And the way I've done it on a row, you can also do it on a column. Okay, moving on, this one, which we're not going to be using here. Let me now use pseudo code, using pseudo classes rather. And pseudo classes allow you to select elements based on their state. When I mean state, on their condition, what is currently happening to them. Are you taking your mouse over it or things like that? That's what I want to do now. I want that once your mouse is going over this, it should be highlighted. That's what I want to actually capture now. So how do you do that? You can do that by specifying tr. You specify this and you include that pseudocode. That pseudocode, there's a lot of them, but the one I'll focus on is hover. That's over like this. That's what I'll focus on. What that means is that once your mouse hover on tr, something is going to happen. Once your mouse hover on tr, something is going to happen. So let me just change the color to red. Once your mouse hover, you can see that nothing is happening, but once your mouse hover on it, it has this effect. So all those things you are seeing online, that when you use the site, you notice all these effects. There are even more effects. When you highlight, you want to change the color on selection, there's also that effect over stuff that we were doing, because it's part of the feature I wanted to cover. So what I want to do is, once you take your mouse over it, I want some things to happen. And what I want to happen is I want to change the background. And the background, I guess, will not change until we use TD to join with it. So let me say, so I'm saying that on hover, each of the background should change color. So let me change the color. Let me see the color. Let me try this and see if it changes. Okay, so let me change the background image and see what happens. Let me pick the background image. I want to pick something drastically different from what we have. Something like red. So let me pick something like this. Okay, so can you see that effect? So that gives it this kind of effect. Or you can even say, okay, it should just go away. Like there should not be background. Yes, you can actually say that it should not be background. How can you say that background should go away? Just say transparent. Once you say transparent, do you see that you are seeing the field directly? That's another effect. Once you say the background color is transparent, it's now showing us the field. Like it's now not bothering about the fact that color is there. It's not showing. It's just showing us the field directly. So what you can do is endless. With this feature, what you can do is endless. Let me quickly add some design to this. Okay, so what we've been able to do here is to provide a link. Let's make the link visible so that we can see that. We have a new element, and this element is now on ordered list. I want to see how to bring that list to something that is very visible. Our another list can also have a color. The color is white. Our font size, yeah, we can have it large. Okay, so what we want to do is to demo some feature. Now the feature I want to demo is that external sites, let's do href. And the purpose of href is that you want to link to other resources, to something else, maybe documentation. Maybe this one should be a file in your documentation. Then this one can be in-house link. Okay, so let me explain what's going on here. What's going on here is that, as I've said, you have three different kind of tags, and you want to target them differently. You want to target them based on their attributes. And what are attributes? This is an attribute. This is an attribute. They are all A tags, by the way. But you want to make sure that even though they are A tags, you want to treat them separately. You want to style them separately. And this is just with this. You remember, we're not using class, we're not using name. We want to target them based on what they have. First of all, the color is very awkward. I want to make the color cool. And by doing that, we'll just first style the A. So let me say, let's do orange. So yeah, that's better. Target this one. So there are three forms of targets. The first target is to confirm that the attribute exists. That target only works for, or that selection only works if that attribute only exists. In this case, note that there is target only on this last one, and the purpose of target is to open in another page. So it means that, you want to style something that is only has this target. As long as it has target, this kind of target, use some form of CSS for it. So let's go ahead and target only this one. How do you target it? You come here, you say A, but you introduce these brackets or this jacket, and then you now put what it is, the attribute is that you are targeting. This time around, it just happened to be target we are saying. So it could be href, it could be other parameter. So once you put that, you then put your code. Then you can then say color is red, and you can see the magic. Immediately you do that, it has this, kind of the color changes. And this is a way maybe for you want to show people that, if you click on this link, you are going outside of this, you are going away from this site. Every other links can look cool, can look the same, but there are some links you want to make different because of the message you are trying to communicate to the user. So you want to be able to also communicate that visually, that hey, when you click this link, it's going outside, just based on the parameter that it has done this. And this syntax is only for the fact that the tag exists. Notice that it doesn't bother about what the content of the tag is. As far as it exists, that's fine. You can do the same for href. Obviously, all the tags have hrefs, and that's why all of them are coloring the same way. They're being colored the same way. Merely you remove href from the tag, it's useless. So this is for what? For the fact that the attribute contains targets. Now, what if you want to say, okay, the attribute contains a specific value, like in this case, href, it contains this anchor sign. This is an anchor, a way to anchor to a particular page. It contains this or is equal to this. You're only targeting for a specific content. By the way, this does not only affect only a tag, it affects any tags. You could actually use it for any tags, so it's not just for A tags. I use it for A tags because most of the time that's what is targeted more. You can use it for any tags. I can put an attribute here, for example, and target it. So let me give you an example. I can put a class. So the fact that h1 has a class, and I do this, it's going to target it. Because it has a class, it's going to target it. So if I don't even have to spell it correctly. If I say ZZ, it's going to target it. This is another story for another day, don't worry. We're going to get to this point. But HTML is so fluid that it allows you to do anything. So you can put things that is not the tag there. It's not going to worry you. It doesn't care. Those attributes, doesn't care about those attributes, right? Except the one that it cares about, then it's going to work with it. These are user defined, meaning you defined it yourself, so you can do with it what you want. So let's move on and talk about the exact one. What if we are dealing with an exact value? Like you want to use this exact value. How do you specify the code for exact value? So let me write this code here and say this one is for href, because we want to make sure that the contents contain hash. So for that one, we'll use yellow. So you can see that the one for, by default, color is orange. Then the one that has hash sign, again, I mentioned to you, it doesn't have to be href, it can be anything. You can say, you can even target the fact that cell spacing is equal to 0. You can't target that. Now anywhere that you see that cell spacing is equal to 0. So you can say table, and what am I targeting? I'm targeting the fact, the attribute of cell spacing is equal to 0. You could actually target this and it will work. So you can give it anything. So let's say color is green. So everything becomes green. That's how beautiful target by attribute content is. So this target by attribute content. The last one we're going to treat is target by hit, what's it called now? What's the word? Target by the content that contains something of the content. It doesn't have to be everything. So for example, we want to make sure that anything that has HTTPS should be styled. Meaning it should just have something, part of something. For example, you can't target all the value of, you can't monitor all the values that should be in an attribute. Maybe you want to target, should it have, if it has HTTPS, what should happen to it? So you want to target that part. How do you target that part? Let me show you that. So you have method, but let me just use the very easiest one that you can grab. Okay, we have our A, and again, I will also remind you guys, the A is for demo purpose. You can use any element and target anything with the attribute. So what attribute are we targeting? href. And what value are we looking at? We are looking at the fact that it has HTTPS. And to start targeting that, you have to put something here. You have to put asterisk here that specify that if it has anything that contains what we're about to type, HTTPS, and color, we're running out of color. Let me say white. Okay, so you can see white. Our external site turns out white. So that's the beauty of what this is all about. Let me I want to bring in another color. Okay, so that's what this is all about. So let me recap what I've said. The first one is if it has that attribute, this is the tag for it. This is how to specify it. The elements in jackets, and you put the attribute. If it contains exactly the value, you just have it, the attribute is equal to the value, straightforward. If it contains any part of these things, you put asterisk. First is equal to the value, and then you can target those elements yourself directly. So in summary of what we've done today, the summary is that I've shown you majorly first and last, because the other one, the nth element, might look so confusing. So let's start with first and last. You can take the other ones, to your own project and try to look at how it works. What we've been able to do is to combine selector together. You can see that I combine two selectors here, tr and td. You could actually combine, meaning that the parent and then the child. That's what is happening here, tr td. So taking in cognizance the parent, which is the tr, then followed by a td, And that's why it's very important that you understand HTML and this structure. And that's why we took our time to explain what HTML is all about. And you can see the hierarchy. Before you go to TH, you first meet TR. So that's why the styling, you specify that you have to go through TR, then TH, and do what you need to do. In this case, it's TR and TD we are talking about. And you were able to see how we selected each of this. So this part will really help you to be able to go back and try this. Table is a very good way to do this experiment. We can do this experiment again, even using this one, using this guy here. Let me quickly show you. You can use experiment using this guy. That's this UL, because this is also an items. LI, they are all items. Let me show you quickly. So let me clear all these guys and give you a quick one. So we want to style these links on the bottom, and you have our UL and our LI. That's the flow. How do you style the first LI? You just say first child, and if you go there and say color red, what do you expect? The first, you can see that it's styled. The reason why it's not doing red fully is because it's a link. So just focus on the red dots there. So this is styled for you. How do you do the last one? It's styled for you. How do you do the nth item? So you just do nth child. In brackets, you specify the number of the child you want to do. This is child 1, child 2, child 3, child 4. Then you can have the even to give you this kind of even vibe, like you can have even distribution. And this is where you kind of do this background thing, background overlaying effects kind of a thing, where you have alternative stuff. You can have this kind of thing set up as well. Thank you for staying to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on bell notification in order to be notified when we release new videos. See you in the next one.